give a wave to Jim. We're going to get underway.
Go. Chair. Here. Hello everybody. My name's Jim Patterson and I'm from Advocacy Tasmania. Don't mind me while I refer to my notes to keep me on track. I'd like to begin by paying respect to the traditional and original owners of this land, of the Muwanina people, to pay respect to those that have passed before us and to acknowledge today's Tasmanian Aboriginal people who are the custodians of this land. So, a little bit about Advocacy Tas, and some of you would have heard about us, but we've been protecting Tasmanians' rights for over 35 years. So we know how to get things done and how things work. And we know how to work through complex processes and systems to get the results where possible. Our service is free, confidential, client-directed, and we work across Tasmania. We work for older people, people with disability, people with mental health conditions, and people who use alcohol and other drugs. You'll hear from OPAN today, who we are funded by, who we're funded to work at a systemic level, and they provide government funds to us for some of our work for older Tasmanians, and that is specifically the National Aged Care Advocacy Program. And that is a program that provides one-on-one support to older Tasmanians who are looking to access aged care services or who are accessing or who are living in residential aged care and are having difficulties that they're experiencing with those systems. We often say that our work fixes problems big and small for our clients. Advocacy Tasmania also amplifies the concerns of older Tasmanians that they have with the aged care system, the guardianship system and other systems that impact Tasmanians. Our focus is purely on Tasmanians and the things that aren't right for our clients. Our clients' issues become our issues. We will always maintain confidentiality and work only for our clients. So very important that I think we're able to see the type of work that we do in the aged care sector. We're not with COTA, we're separate to COTA, we're separate to OPAN. We're funded by OPAN to deliver the National Aged Care Advocacy Program. You'll hear today about the new Aged Care Act, and we don't know how these changes to the Act will be operationalised and how they will impact Tasmanians. It's complex, so you get support if you need it. We're totally independent and we work only for our clients to achieve our goals. We can only provide information or play a more active role to help our clients solve their problems. It's entirely up to our clients how we work. Our job is to protect Tasmanians' rights, and we will always be a voice for our clients when those rights are threatened or abused. There are brochures here on the table about our service, so feel free to pick one up, or you can get our details from our website or our Facebook page to see what older Tasmanians are concerned about. Thank you.
Excellent. So thank you everyone for being here today, and we're going to get underway. My name's Craig Gear. I'm the CEO of the Older Persons Advocacy Network. As Jim was saying, that Advocacy Tasmania is your local member of OPAN. We're kind of the national peak body, the direct delivery service, that really important advocacy, individual support Jim was talking about is provided by Advocacy Tas, and they do an amazing job. But we're also here today with COTA Tasmania, and thank them for being part of this as well. But more importantly, COTA Australia, who Sophia is here as my joint presenter today. Welcome.
Thank you, Craig. I'm looking forward to working through some of the changes that are coming with aged care reform. Craig, I think we also need to acknowledge the Department of Health, Disability and Ageing, in particular the Minister for Aged Care and Seniors, in supporting today's event. I think for us, this is not about us, it's about you. It's really important. I think one of the things we found as talking to older people was that there wasn't enough information that was being aimed at older people, families, supporters, and this is a series of events that we're holding around the country, and this is number 4? Four?
Yes.
Yep.
Four of 8. Yes.
Yes. And we'll be wanting to go through, the substance of the aged care reforms. We want to ask you about your priorities, what you think we need to be talking about, asking questions about, where we don't sometimes know what the answers are, sometimes we might. And we want to be able to collect that information, those questions today, be able to answer some of those questions. But those that we can't, we'll look at developing a frequently asked questions page, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. And I guess we will start a little bit about...
So probably also to realise that we're independent organisations, we're community organisations. We're not from the government, we're independent of the government, and that's really important that as Jim was saying, that these organisations are here on your side. So, but government's made decisions about this new Aged Care Act, and we've provided some brochures up the back there, but also a couple on your tables, I think more up the back. For those that are online, you'll receive, or for everyone here, you'll receive a copy of the slides that we show you today, and also a copy of those brochures, because they're the source of truth that the government needs to tell you about the decisions they've made. Now, not everything that's been decided in this Aged Care Act we agree with, but there are some strengthening things in the Act that we see as well. So we'll take you through those today. We want an aged care system that is based around you, that works for you, that is fair, that is equitable, that treats older people with respect and dignity, and is affordable and equitable. And so an event like this is really to provide and I suppose clarify some of that information that's coming out, and to give you the chance to ask questions and us to answer for what we know, or to pass those questions back to government if the information's not available at the moment as well.
Yeah. And it's important that you are armed with the most up-to-date and accurate information. As Craig said, they're really important changes. And we generally support the changes, but there are some things that we're still not quite happy about, and we'll be talking. And we will be continuing to talk to government about some of those things. So we've got 2 hours today, which is a fair amount of time, and I think we will have a comfort break in the middle. And I hope that you've all had an opportunity to have some refreshments. But if you do need to get up, have a cup of tea, or pop out to use the facilities. If you don't already know, they are out the door and just around the corner here. So today we're going to be using a tool called Civility. Now Peter's going to take you through that and how it's used, and I hope that you've all had some support to get on to the tool. There's a QR code on your chair, and if you haven't logged in, if you need some assistance, if you haven't already received or haven't been able to get on, please put your hand up for some assistance. But Peter, I think I'll hand over to you.
Thank you. I've met a number of you trying to get it online. I've also respect that some of you don't want to go near putting a QR code in the phone, and I totally respect that as well. Yep. For those at home, there's a link in the chat of the live stream. The reason we're doing this is that we're going right around the country and we're trying to collect, while we're giving you information, we're also really keen to get information from you about the questions you've got. So whether or not we get round to answering them all today, the one thing you can do, if something doesn't quite make sense or you want to know how something applies, put it in there, and then we'll collect all of those and build a big base of questions and answers that we can share with you later. So we're not just doing it because it's a new toy, we're actually trying to collect the collective brain of everyone watching. And we've got as many people online as we've got in the room, so it's also really important to give the people at home a chance to ask their questions as well. Hello everyone, we can wave to them that are joining us. So why don't we get started? Most of you have gone in there now. I'm really interested to know, to start off, what best describes you. Are you someone who is currently accessing the aged care supports, maybe a home care package or something like that? Do you expect to access in the next few years, or are you here because you're supporting a family member or a friend? So again, if you use your phone, it should be pretty easy. You just sort of click on the one that best applies to you. We've got a grand total of we're up to 3 people that have used it. Here we go. And it becomes, because it's all live feedback, it's quite exciting. You get to see sometimes it's a bit of a race. We're actually going to run a book on it later. We'll give that a couple of more seconds if anyone's still trying to get in there. It's a bit of a test of our thumbs.
On so I can see the screen.
Because we've got a couple more
screen
questions.
Looking at 8, okay, so lots of supporters of people here today.
But also, if you want to show me, sorry?
Sure.
So, well then let's do a show of hands as well. Who's here because they're currently accessing the aged care system? Okay,
excellent.
That's more,
right,
so we
good.
can capture about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Who's here because they expect to access in the next few years? Woo! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. This is very analogue, but we're capturing that. And who's supporting a family member or friend? And you can't vote twice, because if you've already gone in there, don't put it. We'll do another one with a bit of a combination. I'd love it if you can put it in, because this is a really important one, the next slide. So we want to know at the start of the discussion 2 things. Firstly, how well informed you feel about the changes. If you know nothing about it, put a 1. If we should be kicking Craig and Sophia off stage and putting you up instead, put a 5. So how much do you feel you know about the changes? And secondly, we're really interested to know, based on what you know, how supportive you are of the changes. So we'll just see what comes up there, and then again we'll put that through the through the democracy of the hand in the room at least. Although if you are streaming at home and you want to put up your hand and feel part of it, you're really welcome to as well.
And we will, for those who are new to the system, we will, I suppose, be taking you through sort of what it's like to try and find care through this service as well, and those who are also in the system, what that means for you for changes as well. So there's a bit of stuff in there for everyone, isn't there?
So don't get too worried about it, but if you do have it open now, you just scroll down and put in questions as you go. But again, let's talk about how well informed. Let's just say people that were a 1 or a 2, so don't know much about it. Who's a 1 or a 2? Who's a 4 or a 5? Who's a 5? Up you go, come on.
Excellent. We've had a couple of 5s in our journey so far, and some really, and then we could actually critique some of the decisions as well. So that's really good stuff we want to hear.
And what about supportive? Are you, so again, who is a 1 or a 2? So very sceptical about it, not very.
If you don't know,
that's good, but just your initial instinct.
Yep.
Initial instinct, positive, negative. Let's just do positive, negative. Initial instinct, positive. We'll come back to this. Initial instinct, negative. Well, that's good.
That's a good point.
Because we're going to ask you again at the end, and hopefully you'll also say you've known more about it. All right. On that note, please put some questions in as we go, and we'll get into the substance of the discussion, Craig.
Thanks, Sophie. Let me just change my page here. So, for those who have been around for a while, you might know some of this information, but just a potted history, I suppose, of the aged care system and what's been funded by aged care by the Commonwealth Government over time. So in 1954, so we're going back almost 70 years, was the first time the Commonwealth got involved with aged care, and there was the Commonwealth Aged Persons Homes Act, and it was under the Menzies government. That was really about some capital funding for churches, not-for-profits, to actually build some aged care homes, so some nursing homes.
Yeah, and I think, Carrie, I will interrupt you and say this is probably the first time that COTA became involved in the aged care space, and
Right.
one of our first publications was around.
So that's how long COTA's been around for, or that 70 years. Wow. Then we came to 1985 and the Hawke government, and they put in what was called the HAC program. It might have been heard about it, the home and community care, because people were saying they wanted to have the services in the home, and this was things like meals and transports and low-level personal care. That's now transferred and is now called the Commonwealth Home Support Program. But some of you might be receiving services, but that's when it originally started and was called the Home and Community Care, or HAC program. 1997, under the Howard government, was when the current legislation came into place, the 1997 Aged Care Act, and that's what we're still operating under. And so that's getting a bit dated, 30 years. And really what this is about putting a legal framework about how providers were going to get paid. There was an accreditation system, so they were looking at about how you brought in some quality into it, but it was also about some things around co-contributions or co-payments and means testing about who would pay those things as well. So that's been around for a while. But it was also when we saw the expansion of a lot of private providers coming into the system as well. 2011, 2012, under the Gillard government, and Mark Butler, who is the current minister, was involved with this, and I think COTA was quite strongly involved with these reforms as well, of the living longer, living better.
Yeah, absolutely, and this came off the back of the Productivity Commission inquiry.
That's right, yeah. So even back then they were still reviewing aged care and saying things needed to change. What people were saying at the time is they wanted to stay in control of their aged care, and they wanted their care in their home. So they wanted it, and that thing of the word, what we're dropping the term consumer choice now to be more the participant was actually driving that. More flexibility in the funding, planning for better workforce, but also a thing called the My Aged Care Gateway, which is now called My Aged Care. Now that was meant to be a one-stop shop. There was no physical shop in the end. The bricks and mortar didn't really happen, but what it was a website and a call centre, and that's My Aged Care. But we'll talk you through today about where you can actually go and get some information, which includes Services Australia, or the old Centrelink, who have information about that. That brings us up to 2018, and I remember being in this job for about 6 weeks and then getting a phone call from Minister Wyatt saying there was going to be a Royal Commission into the quality and safety of aged care. And a number of you would have seen those really harrowing stories on the ABC and on other media, which was showing just not the respect for older people, and not the care, and actually abuse. And some of that was because there wasn't enough staff, and some of that was about the quality of the system. And so that was that significant investigation which came out with 148 recommendations about what needed to happen to improve the system. That kind of brings us up to today. And tell us about recommendation number 1, Sophia.
So one of the key recommendations was a new Aged Care Act, and I know in our conversations with older people, and what came out through the Royal Commission was that the Act wasn't really doing what it needed to do. So at the end of last year, we had a new Aged Care Act coming through Parliament, and it fundamentally changes the way that we look at aged care from a legal perspective. So the previous act from the Howard government was about the relationship between the provider and the government, and how, basically governed payment. Whereas now we have a new act which looks at older people. Whoops.
Apologies for that one. That was a strong one.
So older people are at the centre. Thank you, Craig. So And so this is the new legal framework that shifts the focus of the relationship from provider to government, or government to provider, to government to provider, and both working through to with the older person, the recipient of the services at the centre. So it's focuses on the relationship. We, both COTA and OPAN, we support the thrust of the Act, and we know people need greater agency. They want to be in control of the care that they receive, how it's received, where it's received. But the changes, there's a lot of changes, and I think, Craig, you counted how many lines with it? How many pages?
Yes, I counted the pages of the Act, and I got to 1,400 when you look at the legislation, the rules that go with the legislation, and some of the amendments that have gone through. So don't worry, we're not going to have an exam on it today and see that you've read all 1,400 pages. Part of what our role today is give you that information. Partly today is also about you being able to go and tell family, friends, your networks that this information's available as well. And so we're here to try and simplify that rather than take you through all 1,400 pages. You'll be pleased we're not going to do that.
Yeah, so I think we're going to be drilling down into some of the changes and giving you an overview to begin with, and then drilling down. So the key things were that the Act was passed on the 24th of November last year, and it's going to be implemented from the 1st of November. So there has been a delay it was meant to be implemented from the 1st of July. However, we know providers and government weren't quite ready for the change, particularly around the payments and I think Services Australia and some of the IT support. So we reluctantly supported a setback in the time frame, but we knew that older people were confused and it was just coming too fast. So we think that the 1st of November date, it's reasonably sensible, but
yeah,
we
really wanted to push it still to go forward because we wanted the strengthened regulation, the improved protections for older people, the rights of older people to come forward, but we wanted older people to have the information, particularly around pricing and co-contributions, and that wasn't possible for that time, and that's why we reluctantly said, yep, let's hold it back for a little bit. But we really need to go forward because we want you to have those protections and you want you to have your rights, and improve services.
Yeah, and I think that was part of our advocacy, that we don't want older persons' rights to be held back any longer. So it's possibly a messy time because there are still things that are being worked through, but the new Act will be implemented from the 1st of November. So that legislation passed through Parliament a couple of weeks ago and is awaiting royal assent. So it will definitely happen. Look, there are also lots of changes for providers with the Act, and whilst the law's been passed now, there'll be lots of flow-on impacts. There are structural changes as well as system changes. So some of the key things that are happening, we'll see it up on the slide, is there is a statement of rights. So on your chairs, you would have had a flyer from OPAN.
That purple brochure.
Yeah, purple brochure.
And for those online, we're going to be sending this out to you afterwards.
Yeah, so, and that is a great overview of the changes in terms of the rights, and explains the statement of rights. So I would commend that piece of collateral to you. So changes around supported decision making. So this is not substitute. We're used to substitute decision making, where this is a key change in a principle, and Craig will be talking a bit more about that later on. There are stronger accountabilities and more transparency for providers. So we, I know, advocated very strongly. We want to providers to be much more accountable for how they run their services, what they're doing, and we also want to know more about them. So things, more information about providers so that it can help consumers make decisions about those things. So these things are embedded in the Act. There is now an independent complaints process, and there will be changes to the design of aged care programs, and one of the significant changes will be around support at home. So Craig's going to give a short overview, but we'll go into a bit more detail a bit later on. So, and if we move on to the next slide, there will also be changes to financial contributions for some people. So people who have means, generally the message will be is you will generally be paying more, and we'll talk a bit more about what that looks like in the new program. Eligibility requirements. It's going to be very clear that the program is for people over the age of 65, or for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, it's 55, sorry Craig.
55, yep.
Yeah, 55. And also for people who are at risk of homelessness, the threshold is lower. So I think it's key. Look, I think some of the critiques of the Royal Commission were about younger people in nursing homes and...
Yeah, that it wasn't the right place to provide those services, yeah.
Absolutely. So there's a lot more clarity about who is eligible for aged care services. There's a new assessment process, or a single assessment process, which will hopefully streamline the experience for older people and their families, so you're only telling your story once. There are changes to the quality standards in strengthening. Craig will be talking a bit more about that later on. Whistleblower protections for people, and a code of conduct for workers and providers, which is very, very new, and people will have to be signing up to that code of conduct and held accountable to it. So that is one of the new accountabilities for aged care providers. So it's a lot of change, and it represents a fundamental shift for the sector and for the way that older people will experience aged care. So.
Yeah, but I suppose when it comes down to the actual services that you receive, that's the important part of that. So in a nutshell, what this does is provide services to you in two ways. For those that are on the Commonwealth Home Support Program, that will continue on, but eventually will be brought into this new supported home program. And so it gives you either services in your home or where you live, or residential care. Now, in a nutshell, what supported home is, at the moment we've got things called home care packages. We've had people ask us, what is a package? A package basically is it's a bucket of money, and then you get a range of services that you need bundled together in a care plan, and then the provider comes and provides those services to you, whether that's cleaning, gardening, personal care, helping you with making the bed, or nursing care and those sorts of things. So it'll depend on what your individual needs are. At the moment, we've got 4 levels of home care package. There's going to be eight classifications, and the top one of that, the level 8, goes up to $78,000, which is more money than what the level 4 package is at the moment. The other thing I was really excited about is this restorative care pathway. That is available on top of those level 8 levels, or 8 classification levels. This is allied health support to really, what I talk about is to get you back on your feet. So you might have had a fall, you might have been sick for a while, and you sort of, you might have had COVID, and it's a bit hard to sort of get back to that energy that you had before. You might have been in hospital. This is about getting physiotherapy, allied health support to get you strengthened and keep you independent in your home, which is exciting. There's also, we hear that about 77% of people would like to die at home, but only around about 11% of people get to do that because there's just not the support services. In supported home, there is going to be additional funding for the last 3 months of life, which can be extended in some circumstances, but an additional top-up of $25,000 to make sure that you can get additional nursing and other supports in the home. And that doesn't stop you accessing the general services in the community, your GP, the palliative care specialists from the Tasmanian Health Department. All those things are still there, but this is additional services to help you and your family to be able to die at home if that's what you would like to do. The other thing, people used to have to, as we can hear the rain coming in, save for a rainy day, and we're waiting to sort of hold some of their package back or their contributions back to be able to purchase things like wheelchairs or walkers or to get modifications made to their home. What the new program does is provide up to $15,000 for assistive technology, and that comes straight away. So that's good that people don't have to wait for those sorts of things. And for those who need higher levels of assistive technology, there are mechanisms for that to be what's called prescribed. So an occupational therapist might say that you need this, or your doctor might say you need this, and there's ways of getting higher support. But also then $15,000 for the home modifications to get the ramps and the rails and keep you safe at home.
Yeah, and that is a great change, because we know that people were going without the things like assistive technology, door handles, changes, etc., because they had to save up for it in advance. So this is an excellent change.
Yep. Now, comes with that is means testing. So like happens in the taxation system, those who have more, earn more, will pay some more. So, but that will be pegged to being you're on a pension, up to where you're self-funded retiree, and Sophia will take you through some of that in a little while about what it might mean for you depending on your personal circumstances. Now, then you might also be approved for residential care, or you might choose to move into residential care. So while the majority of people, when we went out to consult on this Aged Care Act, said they wanted to stay in the home, they also recognise there are times when you might need that higher level of support of residential care, and it is that highest level of support where you've got nursing around you 24 hours a day, which has been really good. Investment in more nursing hours, more care minutes. But most of the changes there is around strengthening the quality of standards, so responding to what that Royal Commission said, strengthening the regulation and strengthening the quality standards, and really, I suppose, looking at ways that you can, the providers can exceed the standards, not just meet them, but exceed the standards as well. But there are changes to the way the charges and fees are, and there's also changes about where you're signing up for additional services. At the moment, that was often done as you were coming through the door. You'd say, oh, look, sign up for your Foxtel and stuff like that as well. Now there's a waiting period, a cooling off period. That doesn't have to be a condition to coming in. Again, there's some means testing depending on your means and what your income and assets are. So we'll go through more detail in a moment, but before we do, we're really interested in getting your thoughts on this big picture outline and what you think. So Pete, over to you. I think.
Yeah, and thank you for those that are entering the questions, and we'll give a chance for hands up in a sec. And for those at home that heard all this static, it was actually rain on the roof.
It was the rain for the rainy day, yep.
But are there any grandfathers in the room? First question's about you. If someone's been in a home care package before September 24, can they transition to permanent residential care from November 1? Have those rights been grandfathered?
Sure.
So if you're in residential care now, you are under the no worse off principle, and if you're receiving a home care package, you will. But if you're moving into residential, I think that the new scheme will apply to you. It's about whether you're in and receiving these services at the moment. So you will come under the new scheme if you're not in residential care now.
Thank you for that one. What measures have been put in place to regulate and audit providers now there will be so much government funding in the care at home area? Will providers be self-regulating?
Do you want to take that one? Or?
Look, the standards and the accreditation, the processes that the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission run to assure that service providers are doing the right thing will apply to those at home. Absolutely. And we are in conversation with the Commission regularly, and they all talk to us about a risk-based approach, which means that they will be monitoring certain things to keep their eye on different providers, and feedback from people who are receiving those services is one of those indicators around services. So it's important, that's a really important element of that.
Yeah, and I'll take you through the quality standards a little bit later on and talk to you about which ones apply to those that are in the home versus those that are living in residential aged care.
Yeah, but I guess, Peter, also to say, it's good that we're getting more service providers in that space, because that's where the demand is. People want to stay at home for as long as possible, and we want more packages in the system. We want more money into support at home.
Is this a normal Hobart spring day? One more question. I think for Craig. Why am I going to get a code of conduct that is for a provider? The language is not consumer focused.
So the statement of rights, that is for the older person. I always talk about, there's a Charter of Rights at the moment, and I talk about it as it's a sword, because it's, you can say, here's my expectations, and it's a bit of a shield to protect older people and their rights. But the Charter of Rights at the moment, it's been a bit of as a sword, it was like a bit of soft cardboard, and as a shield, it was a soft cardboard, and as a sword, it was like a bit of a limp piece of celery, really. What this statement of rights does is it's legislated so it's much stronger. In relation to the code of conduct, what that says is this is the expectation of every aged care worker, every CEO, every nurse manager, of how they need to behave and how they need to treat you. And if they breach that code of conduct, they can actually be banned from working in aged care. The Commission can take action against them. They can give them warnings, but they can actually say you can't work in aged care anymore. Pete, we've got a question here from the floor as well. So
all right, here we go. Analog.
We're just going to bring the microphone so the people online can hear you as well.
Here is the statement of rights. What legal position do they have, and are they legally enforceable?
Right, so just in case that didn't come through for the online, do these rights have any way of being enforced? Do they have any legal mechanism? The rights themselves aren't enforceable just in and of themselves in a court of law. However, what you can do is actually make a complaint to the Aged Care Complaints Commission, and you can say, my right to privacy was actually breached. They will then investigate that, and then they have powers, because they'll say, you're not complying with the aged care quality standards, you're not complying with your obligations as a registered provider, and you're not complying with the code of conduct, therefore we're going to fine you, or we're going to actually enforce that you will actually make changes. So they are enforceable, but through the mechanisms of the regulation that the commissions, the powers that they have. That's one of the reasons why we want this Act to go forward, to give the regulator more powers to actually enforce those rights.
There's a number of other clarification questions, but I'm going to hold them until we get into the actual detail. If we want to move the slide, we've got 5 areas we're going to dig deep into, and we are really interested, again, if you want to whip up your phone, be really useful for us, which is the area that is most important for you? Because these are the areas we're going to be talking about. Support at home, finding care, residential care, complaints, which is also the rights piece, and supported decision making. If anyone wants to go in there and give us a sense of the priority areas for them, and this is where it gets quite exciting, we turn it into a little bit of a horse race. At the moment, support at home seems to be the most important, but we'll give you a couple of minutes to let us know what you think there, and you can keep filling it out even as we move into the next bit of the...
And as we're moving that,
if
just
you
one
like.
thing to add on the statement of rights. One of the things that COTA and OPAN really pushed really hard for was that it started off in the draft, it said, I just don't do anything that's not in line with the statement of rights. We said that wasn't good enough. There had to be a positive duty, and like employers have a positive duty that they have to stamp out sexual harassment in the workplace, there is a duty for the providers to actually uphold that statement of rights. And if they breach that obligation, that's where they can start taking action. So that is much stronger than what was in, I suppose, the drafting, and something that we were pleased that got in place.
I'm going to call it for support at home.
Support at home, there we go.
Anyway, so
It
we're going to
wins
go
every
into the
time.
detail of this now.
It's the golden horse.
But we're going to start with finding care, which is our second.
Great. So for those who haven't...
Sorry? Oh, great idea. Let's go back, Mayank. Thank you very much. Let's go back to our horse race. So let's see if we can pump it up. Who, like the most important issue for each of you? Support at home? Ooh,
Lots of hands for
I
that
feel
one.
like the virtual world is reflecting the physical world for once. Supported decision making. Thank you. Finding care.
Hands.
You can love all your children.
Yeah.
Residential care. Complaints. Okay.
Great.
We're going to
Excellent.
talk about all of them. That's the good news. Over
That's
to you,
good.
Craig.
We'll spend some time on that. But I will take, for those who are new to receiving aged care or are thinking about it, that pre-contemplative stage, we want you to be able to know how to get into the system. I mentioned the gateway before, which is called My Aged Care. That is the first place, and we're going to move on to our next slide, because My Aged Care is your first contact point. You can go on the website, myagedcare.gov.au, or you can ring 1800 200 422. They will talk you through the system. They can provide information. That they'll also ask you a few questions about the sorts of things you're finding maybe a little bit difficult at the moment. That might be it's hard to make the bed, it's hard to do the washing, I'm finding it a bit harder to make meals. They'll then book you in for an assessment. They'll check whether you're eligible. Are you over 65? What's your date of birth? Those sorts of things as well. They'll ask you if you've got a carer, is anyone else involved. That will then refer you to what's called the single assessment service, and you'll get a phone call from them, and it's really important that you take the call. We know that sometimes people don't like to take those calls that are private lines and those sorts of things, but it might be the service calling you, and they'll do, I suppose, a quick assessment. This is not the full assessment, but they are doing some questions to see how quickly they need to come out and assess you face to face.
It's probably about 20
20
minutes,
questions?
about 20.
Yep.
It could be up to 20 minutes of conversation, depending on how complex
Yep.
the situation is. But it's important. It's really important to have that discussion and be open with them so that you can be prioritised.
Yeah, and so and you sort of be honest and say, look, this is what I'm having trouble with at the moment, or what I'm about to think that I need, and that will decide whether they need someone that's clinically trained, like a nurse, to come out and do that, or someone who just knows the system who can come and do that that initial assessment. They'll book you in, and then they'll come, and our position is that they really should do this face to face because they need to see you living in your home. We know at the moment there's a long waiting time for these, and we are really pushing hard for an improvement in the times that we're waiting for these assessments to happen, because this is your entry point. You then get your assessment, and then you'll get approved for support at home. Once you've got your assessment, you get your golden ticket. You'll get a letter from Services Australia that says you've got what classification level you are, and then that will take you to go and find a provider, and that will then allow you to sit down with your provider, build a care and services plan. This is important to know that you are in control of this. They are services that you'll decide that you need, but working with that person who's doing the assessment to plan that, and then with the provider.
Yeah. And to say this is the same process that we'll have for residential care. If you're looking for residential care, you'll have that
Correct, and they might actually approve you for both at the same
Yeah.
time, but you might say, look, I don't need residential care now, I need supported home, but they might approve you at the same time, so you can have both when
Yeah,
you
I
need
know
it.
from personal experience when my mum was
Yeah.
assessed, we had an approval for a package and for a residential residential.
I was going to say, did they
respite.
approve you for respite as well?
Yeah,
So
they did,
if people don't know about respite, that's a service that's there to help, I suppose, support the carers as well. And so it might be because the carer's going away that someone goes into residential care for a short time, or goes to experience whether they need those levels of services.
Yeah. And if you're receiving the call as the carer, that initial call, yeah, please be open and honest. I think it's really important to be for the person that you're caring for to be prioritised in the best possible way.
Right. So then you're booked in. You've had this initial assessment. As I said, then you'll go down one of those two pathways: the supported home or the residential care, and then they'll start planning your service plan with you. So let's get into that now. We know there's a lot of people waiting. There's about 108,000 people on the waiting list at the moment for the home care packages as they stand, and another 120,000 waiting for the
Before we get
assessment.
into that, couple of questions,
Yeah.
Craig. One through the app. There have been long delays for some time to have
Yep.
the initial assessment, plus subsequent long wait for HCP care. A family member I supported died after a long wait for HCP, and no CHSP services available.
Yeah, and that's really distressing. It is awful that people are waiting that long. Some people are waiting over 12, 15 months. We want to see that come down. That's why we did push that the packages needed to start being released now. And COTA and OPAN and along that, and they have released some immediate packages. There needs to be some improvements in the timeframes in the single assessment service. Partly what comes with this new act is actually greater transparency of those waiting times so that we can hold government accountable that there's improvements. It has started to improve a little bit as they've got more workforce on, but there's more work to be done in this area because we want people to get the services they need. We want them to stay independent. We don't want anyone to miss out, and particularly not to die while they're waiting for a package. We think no one should wait more than 30 days, isn't it? Yeah.
But I think in that case, if somebody in the current situation, if they've been waiting for Commonwealth Home Support program, and the situation is getting dire, you can ask for a reassessment.
You can, and that's when I suppose you could call Advocacy Tasmania as well. They could help that. You can call back to the assessment service, or you can call My Aged Care, and say, look, my needs have changed and things are getting a bit dire, and why things have changed, and ask for that reassessment.
All right, on we go.
Supported
If there's any
home.
questions from the
Sophia,
floor,
this is
just
where
on-
everyone wants to know about. Let's tell them about supported home.
All right, supported home. So we're going to we'll start with those people who are already receiving care in the current system and what's going to happen, and then we'll talk a bit about what new participants in supported home will see. So, all right, you've got a home care package. So we will see people translate at the same sort of funding level that they're at, whether level 1, 2, 3 or 4 in the current packages, into one of the new supported home levels. So it'll be sort of commensurate with the funding level that you're currently receiving. However, you will get the same amount of funding, but because there will be changes in pricing, which I'll talk a little bit more about, your package may not be purchasing as much in terms of if the providers in the new world increase their package prices or their service prices further, you might find that your service you're not getting enough. So that's when you'll be asking for a reassessment. Because your needs have changed and your package is not purchasing what you need anymore. So you'll maintain the same level of funding. Any unspent funds that you have, you will keep your unspent funds and you'll be able to spend them until they're finished. So we know lots of people at the moment have quite a large pools of unspent funds. You'll be keeping them and spending them into the future. Again, and I've just talked about the higher pricing, so that's where you might see the change.
So you might have heard, I mean, Pete did say about this grandparenting or grandfathering, I think unfortunately is the legal name of it. But it's the no worse off principle. So if you're paying a small amount of contribution to your home care package now, you'll pay that same amount. If you're not paying anything towards your home care package at the moment, because you've been assessed by Services Australia as not having to pay anything, you won't pay anything into the future. You will stay on what you're paying now.
Yeah, and you can still shop around for another provider.
Yes.
Absolutely. If your provider is not meeting your needs anymore, or their prices have increased in a way that you're not happy with, you can shop around. Okay, so in the new supported home service, what we will see is that with the package, you will have one of those levels of package. It will be a pool of funds approved for the services that you need. There'll be a service list that will sort of standardise the types of things that you can receive. 10% of your budget will automatically be allocated for care management. What does care management mean? So it will be a minimum contact of at least once a month to check on your needs, if things have changed. So the provider needs to be communicating with you. Some people will need more contact. Other people might require less, but it'll be a minimum of once a month. We hear a lot from older people who are paying for care management services right now who say, I never hear from my provider.
Never heard from them
Yeah.
until they want to sign them up for the new service
Yeah.
agreement each year.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
and that's when they hear from them. So, and I think, and so that will automatically go to the provider from your budget. So the budgets are allocated on a quarterly basis, and the level of packages. So up there we've got, if on a quarterly level, it's between 2.7 thousand. To about almost 19,500, which is it's the highest level package, which is 78,000.
Yeah.
Yep, 78,000. So for a year, so you could actually, I was just saying, you could be on a level 4 package, and then if you're at end of life for palliative, you would get the boost of the
boost on
25,000.
top of the 20,000. Yeah.
On top of that, if that's needed. So you've got the budgets quarter, and they will need to be spent in the quarter. So and the price that you're charged will have to be all inclusive of management, travel, any third party costs. So right now, lots of people are telling us they get charged these, not an admin fee, but they'll get package management, care management, etc. All those costs. So 10% will be care management, and any other fees that the provider charges will have to be incorporated into their hourly rate for that service. So that's
You might have that you haven't used all your services. The maximum amount you can carry forward to the next quarter is $1,000. That's why we sort of encourage people to get their service plan and to understand their budget and to keep using it. If you need these services, use them. Yep.
So, and in the new supported home, there will be tiers of service. So the service will be divided into clinical care, independence services, and everyday living. And why is that important? Because it will actually then dictate your contribution to to your package. So up there on the screen, you've
Do you
got.
want to give us a couple of examples, maybe what would be in a clinical service?
So if, say, a nurse is coming every day to do
your medications or dressings? Yep.
That's a clinical service. A physiotherapist or a
Yep.
podiatrist, they're all clinical services. So with that, nobody will be contributing. The government will fully subsidise that service, so there'll be no contribution.
And
That's
so
the
in
thing.
independence, that's sort of your
Yeah, that's sort
support
of
stuff.
staying at home, keeping at home. So things like social support, your day activity programs, transport,
Shopping,
shopping.
yep.
And one of the probably the more controversial ones from our perspective is the personal care showering.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's currently in the independent services. So if you're a pensioner, you'll be contributing 5%. As a Commonwealth seniors card holder, it's between. Sorry, I need to put my glasses on here. Between 5 and 50%, and as a self-funded retiree, it's 50%. We're a bit concerned about, say, the showering being in the independence side of things, because we think and many of the practitioners we talk to, nurses, say that it should be a clinical service because it's so important, particularly for people with continence issues, or if you're managing skin integrity, wound care, etc. It's important. The showering is really important, and we don't want people to be saying no if they can't afford it.
So this will be one that OPAN and COTA will keep monitoring. We want people to make sure they're using these services. And the important thing is, when you come to it, is if you think that you can't afford these co-contributions to it, you can apply to have them reduced or the fees waived. And there's certain conditions on that application. It's a term, unfortunately, called hardship. But it is important, and there's some brochures up there at the back about that, because we don't want you to go without, if you need a shower, to go without it. But it is something we're going to keep pushing for reconsideration of that.
And everyday living is housekeeping, gardening, those sorts of services. So as a pensioner, you can expect to be contributing 17.5% to that. And then it's the next tier is 17.5% through to 80%, and as a self-funded retiree at 80%. And the percentages are of the price that the provider is charging. And so this is important because there'll be a change later on, but that it's the price the provider will be charging.
Yeah, so we might not have agreed with completely with all this structure. We did hear when we went out for the foundations that a lot of people said, look, if I'm happy to contribute something, if I've got enough money to do it, to contribute something to it. But we want to make sure, as we monitor the implementation of this, there's not unintended consequences that people don't use the services. So we will be keeping an eye on that. There'll be much greater transparency coming in from this about not only the waiting times, but how people are using the services as well.
And the determination about your contribution will be made by Services Australia. So they will be doing the assessment around your level of contribution, and you'll get that in writing. And the hardship process that Craig talked about, it will also be managed through Services Australia.
So announced this week is that you'll be getting a letter sometime in early October for those who are already on a package or have been assessed or are on the waiting list, an indicative amount, or not an indicative percentage. Then in November, once the Act starts, Services Australia will send you a letter which confirms what that rate is. So people can expect to be getting some letters in October in relation to that. We'll come to questions in just a second. We've just got two slides and then we're going to come to
and
questions.
Just on that also to say that the hardship process has become more streamlined and not requiring, I'm going to say facetiously hundreds, but it was a lot of paperwork. It's now been reduced and streamlined to make it easier to actually fill in the paperwork.
Yeah, 18 pieces of evidence reduced down to 4. So if you're a pensioner, has your own home, hasn't gifted any money to anyone else, you've just got your pension, it'll be 3 months worth of bank statements, and that's that. The form still looks really quite long because it has to cover everything, but our wonderful aged care service officers, AXO, give us a wave at the back here. They're at Services Australia, and they're really helpful for giving you information about what this means, and about also if you need to put this application in, and Advocacy Tasmania and COTA Tas can also give you information on this. So really important to know that there's supports out there.
Yeah, and this is an important piece of information about future pricing, what's going to happen into the future. So from July next year, the prices, there will be price caps set or recommended. The Australian government will set the price caps, but there'll be a recommendation from the independent, it's Hospitals and Aged Care Pricing Commission now, I think. Yeah.
Pricing Authority.
The authority.
IACPA. We love a good. We love an acronym in aged care. IACPA.
So they will be making the recommendation. Government will be accepting a price cap. But between now, or the 1st of November, and the 1st of July, aged care providers will be setting their own prices. They will need to be reasonable. And the Commission will be, the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission will be monitoring that, and we'll also be keeping an eye on that. So, and that's what I think it's important. That's important to note, that the percentage contribution is based on the provider price. So
now, I'm sure you've got lots of questions. Remember that income and assessment process happens through Services Australia. Their numbers up there.
Yep.
And they're here today if you've got questions.
We'll put that up in the break too. Before we're going to take a 5-minute break, because 2 hours is a lot. There's a lot of information to take in. A few questions from the room, and then I'll go around for those that want to put up their hands. So, first, please advise me if I miss a call from an assessment service from an unidentified number, whether they leave a message so I can ring back or not. How many times are they going to attempt to call me?
Yeah, we've had this one, so 3 times. But that's why we want them to leave a message. We are finding that some of them, when people are called back, that their answering machine's full. The department is working with those services, assessment services, to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Because also with people being more aware of scam calls,
absolutely,
you're not going to pick up a number you don't know, right?
Yeah, so we've got to get some improvements in that system.
Okay. Another one. A lot of people miss out and give up under CHSP because there is no availability either because of funding for these services or workforce shortfalls. How will this be addressed by the changes? Outside your pay grade?
So
go for it.
You can start.
Okay, so as we build this system and we put more money into the system with these more packages, they will increase. Yes, CHSP is a bucket of funding that the provider gets, which gives them more flexibility. We are asking for greater investment in those areas as well. We need to build this ecosystem, and as more money comes in, that will attract more workers in, that sort of thing. But we know there are gaps and there are areas where it's difficult to find a provider at the moment.
Okay, finally,
and I'll just say that right now CHSP will continue to run until 27, and there is a process to start phasing it out into the new support at home program. So it won't be running in the same way. The funding will be to the individual rather than to an organisation to make the decisions about how they allocate or where they put their efforts. So.
Some hands up in the room, I think, after this.
Under grandfathering, how does the income tested fee get sorted by the provider? Does not easily translate to a percentage across the tiers of service? So do we need a quarterly cap perhaps?
Yes, so it will be added as a percentage, but you won't pay any more. So say if you were paying $10 a day, so that equated to $70 per week, it will be worked out so you don't pay any more than that 70, but it will be added to the price per hour to do that. Now, we're still trying to work out how that's going to look in practice. We'll get some more information out to people when we know, but what we do know is you won't be paying more. So it will cap out once you got to that.
Yeah, so you won't be any worse off, but what the playoff might be is there might be a change in the amount of service that you may have, which then precipitates you saying, well, I actually need more, I need a reassessment. So.
Yeah. Questions in the room? We're going to bring the microphone to you so that people online can hear you as well.
My question was the one that you just mentioned, and the problem seems to be that I have a very low ITF fee that comes to only $36 a month, and the provider just doesn't accept that that's all they can get, which I understand. But I don't find there's nowhere we can go to that says just what you were saying, the formula for how does that work out, and who makes the final decision. How can you appeal it if it's saying you will have to pay more because we can't manage on that?
Yeah, you shouldn't have to pay more than if that's what Services Australia has assessed your contribution as. That's what it should be. And if you're finding that it's going over, Advocacy Tasmania has a financial advocacy officer that can help, but you can also go to Services Australia and talk to them. You'll get a monthly statement that comes out from the provider, which says what your co-contributions are, so it shouldn't be more than what you're paying. It is going to be in arrears, yes, so it'll be after you've used the services. Yep.
Any other questions?
Statement.
Check the statements, yep.
Quite a while ago now, we touched on about if your needs increase, you can be reassessed. I'm 75, I've got Parkinson's disease, I've had a level 4 package for a number of years. So I don't get an increase, right? I'm at the top of the feeding chain, so to speak. So how does the system, is there something that I've missed out on? Because it feels to me, as an older Australian with a disability, I'm actively discriminated against because of my age. If I was younger and eligible for the NDIS, I would get better support and services, and I think this is a major disgrace of the government and all the advocacy organisations that people like me virtually thrown in the rubbish bin, and I'm going to get upset.
Yeah, we agree. There is disparity, and why is the right of someone because of their age? It shouldn't be discriminated against age. What I can say is that your level 4 can be reassessed so that you can actually go up to a higher level of classification if your needs are increasing. I think that's... No, because it will go up to classification 8, which is 78,000. So there should be more services available, as well as the assistive technology and those sorts of things. But let's have a chat to you in the break and see what we can do to make sure that we get you assessed properly. Yeah. 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 And we've done some work where with the disability sector to say there should be more equity between the two systems, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my question is around this one as well, because if you are reassessed, because there are higher levels, so whilst you've got level 4 now, there are funding packages up to what they call tier 8. Or
Correct, yes.
Correct? But if you are currently grandfathered under this system, do you lose that grandfathering by being reassessed for something else, for what would be a higher level of funding?
No, for what you pay, you'll pay the same. The contribution will be the same, even though you might go to the higher level of classification. We've been asked that question a lot. We will double confirm that with the department, but that's our understanding is it's the amount that you're paying, even though you move to a higher level of classification, you'll still stay the same as what you're paying.
Craig, the other thing to note, I think, is that as an older person, if you are receiving aged care services, it doesn't mean that's the only thing you can access. You are still a citizen. You still can access health services. You can access a whole range of other things that might support you as well. And if you need a mental health plan that you can get through your GP, or a physio plan, that
chronic health
you should be able to. For chronic health conditions, you not just should, you will be able to access that. So it's important.
If you're a self-funded retiree and mainly what you're needing is everyday living assistance, if you're paying 80% of that provider fee, is it possible that basically it's cheaper for you to go in the private market?
I would say yes. You might reassess your view about what you get through the aged care. If you're eligible, you've been assessed, you might want to put your priority into something else and fund those other services yourself. Yep.
One of the things we didn't talk about is those who are self-managing. So there is the ability still to self-manage your package. It's a little bit complex because they can add 10% onto that price. But that's usually on the understanding probably you've negotiated a lower price than what the mainstream provider is doing. But the ability to continue to self-manage is able to occur through this system. We want to, again, monitor to make sure that it doesn't push people out of their choice to be able to manage their package themselves as well.
We've still got quite a bit to get through. I want to do another analogue vote. Who wants to have a 5-minute break and who wants to keep pushing on?
Hands up for break.
Break wins it, but you've got to race me for the scones. There's only 6 left.
Excellent. I'll see you back in 5 minutes.
All right, let's kick it off for the second half, which won't be as long as the first half. Hopefully.
All right, we've got one. I've been told to hold my microphone differently, so I'm going to try this.
Yeah.
Is that better?
We've had some good constructive feedback on our voice projection.
Thank you.
Yes. So we're going to get underway and we're going to start to talk about residential care.
Just before we
Before we do, we had one clarification question.
Yeah.
Could I just get a bit of quiet in the room?
Thank you.
Thanks.
So, the clarification question was around the 10% care management fee. And so providers will get a 10% care management fee. And any other fees, if you're currently getting you currently have a package and you're getting package management fees, whatever else they're being called, which are merely administration costs, you will not be charged them. You can't be charged them. So any administrative costs or third-party costs, they will have to be incorporated into the hourly rate of the service. So that's it's only the 10% care management.
And we've got a point of question or clarification from the front here.
Follow that up. If you are still standing, still only 2%, it can't be added to the establish of your units on the battery and must be the good down.
Yes.
So here, sorry, to work yeah.
Yep. So the question there was around if you're self-managing and the 10%, that's, yes, they won't be able to add anything else onto that. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about residential care. Now, we were talking about the aged care quality standards before. These quality standards cover both supported home and cover residential care, but I'm going to get you the graphic up in just a second, which is going to talk and show you the 8 standards. These are new strength and quality standards, a higher level of standard that the providers need to make. For residential, it covers all 8. For home care, I think number 6, which is about food and nutrition, and I think the environment don't apply there because is that right? It's those 2 that don't apply.
That's correct. Yeah.
But everything else applies. What's really important is that standard number 1. Standard 1 is about you. Standard 1 is about respecting your dignity. It's upholding that statement of rights. This is where they link and saying they're not meeting their standards if they don't uphold their rights. It's about respecting your cultural diversity and respecting your rights to make your own decisions, which we'll talk on. There's improved food and nutrition standards. We hear a lot that the food is not adequate, it's not nutritious, it's not of enough variety, and it's not warm enough all the time. If you've got a problem with the food or hear of someone with a problem with food, you can call the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission's Food and Nutrition Hotline and tell them about it, and they'll investigate it. There is also improved clinical standards, so improved expectations around the training and skills in people with dementia, with palliative care, with wound management, with medication management, and also about how the nursing assessments happen. One of the good things that was done was making sure that there's a nurse on duty in an aged care home 24/7. That's happening 99% of the time. There were increases to the wages of the aged care staff to attract more people there, and there's an increase in the numbers of minutes that are funded on average across the facility as well. So these are the sorts of things we're seeing that are improving. There'll also be the assessors coming in to assess the provider against these standards. Before it was just a pass or fail. Now it'll be graduated, so that it'll be about levels of meeting the expectations or exceeding those expectations. You might have heard of the star rating system. There's been some criticism of it because it wasn't actually flowing into when there was non-compliance. That system's going to be improved as well and be more responsive to this as well, so that people will be able to compare different residential care providers. So the residential care changes. This is what's changing in there. If you're in residential care now, or you've got a family member that's in residential aged care, you will not be charged anymore. The system stays the same for what you contribute to it. There is a new funding model called, another acronym called the ANAC, the Aged Care Classification System. 13 levels that they come in, and after you've been become a resident, they will come and do an independent assessment to see what level of funding attaches to you, and that's the funding that the provider will get to provide those sorts of supports depending on your mobility and your level of need. But things like clinical care, the nursing and allied health staff, fully funded by the government, no co-contributions to that. Same as like in supported home. There are some other costs, and I'm going to find my document to see whether I make sure I get these ones right. So there's the basic daily care fee. There's the hotelling contribution, which is things like the laundry and the cleaning. There'll be contributions to that. And then there's the non-clinical care contribution. So that's things like the personal care, those sorts of things as well. So again, that's means tested, and there will be some fully supported places where the government pays for all the costs. We need to make sure that that amount of money that's being paid for those supported placements is adequate, so that providers continue to take people without means, so that everyone gets access to residential aged care. Now, we know that residential aged care is quite full at the moment. People do find it hard to find a place. One of the things that has come with these reforms, not that we agreed that we thought it was something there, but there is what's able to do is the retention amount of taking 2% of the refundable accommodation deposit each year for the first 5 years. Now, there's two ways you pay for your accommodation, or two ways you can pay for your accommodation. The refundable accommodation deposit is like you're leasing the room for the time that you're living there. That's a fixed amount that you pay, and the provider can take the interest off that, and then use that money for upkeep, and that same with that retention of the 2% to keep the uptake of the building in the accommodation, or to build more homes. The room price used to be that the maximum it could be was 500,000 without going and getting additional approval from the the pricing authority. That's now automatically gone up to a maximum of 750. Now, there are some places that charge less, but
some that
charge a lot more. Yeah, but to go any higher, they have to go and get special approval and justify why they're going higher. So that's the accommodation, the room, how you pay for the room. You can lease the room. The other way to do it is in our next slide, which is about like paying rent, the daily accommodation payment. And the daily accommodation payment will increase over time on the 20th of March and 20th of September in line with the CPI, but that's like paying rent. Now you can also do a combination, so you can put down some deposit for the RAD and some of the daily accommodation payment. My suggestion is you can speak to Services Australia and to the aged care services officers about the structuring of the payments. You could also get independent financial advice because it is reasonably complex and to understand.
And it's a big investment, I guess.
It is. Now, that lifetime cap, you might have started in a supported home and contributed co-contributions there. That continues on to being in residential care as well. So it's a lifetime cap of co-contributions up to a maximum of 130K, but it does go up each year, indexed each year.
So
I think.
I guess if you're, if we took that supported home example and you were a self-funded retiree making that contribution, that would carry on into residential care if that's where you go.
Yeah. Yep. We're going to take some questions, Pete.
I've got a couple that have come through. Clarification re the admin fees, which providers will need to add to their hourly fees. Is there a cap in place from the 1st of November 2025, or is it just up to the provider to set their own amount?
Yeah.
Go for it, Steve.
Yeah, I'll just say providers will be setting their own fees from the 1st of November. The price caps will be coming into place next year from the 1st of July. So the prices need to be reasonable and they'll be monitored by the aged care quality.
So what happens in that gap?
Yeah.
That's a 7-month gap.
If you think your price is too high, and we're going to be keeping our eyes on this as well, is you go to the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission and say, I want this looked into, and they will ask the provider to justify why that price is the way, and they have to be able to. This is something that COTA and OPAN got a commitment to, because we said they could just put their prices up to anything, and they said, well, they will investigate and ask for a justification for why the price is at the level it is. They'll have to be able to show evidence of why they have to charge that much.
Also a question about staff in residential care. Is staff professional development carried out at the discretion of the facility in areas like dementia care or palliative care, or will there be higher standards imposed on the providers?
The Minister Ray actually wrote to every aged care provider and every aged care worker saying there's an expectation that there will be investment in their training. Then the Quality and Safety Commission come in, and when they audit them, they audit what training has been provided. They don't mandate the level of training or what type of training. The reason I've been given for that is because different providers will provide it in a different way, but there is absolutely an expectation that there is training in palliative care and that there's training in dementia care, but it's not mandatory at this point in time. Dementia Australia's position is, and we agree, that it really should be mandatory dementia training. There is an expectation and they will be audited against it.
Yeah, and I think some of our advocacy has been around making it compulsory in the initial qualification as well.
Yeah, minimum qualifications we'd like to see over time.
And this goes back one, it's a really great question that came in the break. Can a provider dictate the mix of care between clinical, independent and everyday living?
For your home, for your supported home?
Yeah.
They can't mandate it. They have to agree. You'll agree your service plan. So you'll say, no, actually I don't need my washing done. I've got a friend, family member, I can do that myself. I'm quite capable of doing it. I want the support to get to the shops and community transport. So you help decide that. They will do that assessment that says, we think you're eligible or can have these things, but they can't mandate that you take those things or do those things.
Any questions from the floor on residential care before we move on?
Yeah. Yes.
One?
We'll just get you the microphone.
This might be one for Services Australia, but my understanding of the daily accommodation payment is that is a percentage rate that is payable on the amount of bond that you don't pay. And it applies You know, you're notified of it in March and September every year. That's when it is. But if you enter when the percentage rate is high, that's what you are stuck with.
We're
So
going to get
percentage
our
rates-
Services Australia rep up.
Percentage rates may
The
fall,
expert.
but you are still on that rate. Is that correct?
Let's get the expert.
Yes.
Oh,
Thanks,
there you
Chris.
go.
One law,
Yeah.
contractual law. Services Australia makes the determination of the needs assessment as of the date of entry. So you go under a signed contract. The MPIR is set at the date of entry. For those who are a nerd like me and want to know where the MPIR comes from,
Can you just say what the NPIR
yep,
is?
MPIR, maximum permissible interest rate.
There you go.
There is a correlation between the RAD and the daily room rate. The current MPIR is 7.78%. The reason? It comes from the ATO, the GIC, the General Interest Charge. The current quarter up until the 1st of October is 10.78%. The MPIR is the GIC minus 3%. There is a new MPIR coming up on the 1st of October, 10.61% I think it is, so therefore for aged care it'll be 7.61%. But you are right, it is contractual agreement. And that's Australian law. We can't go anywhere outside of it. It's because the Aged Care Act and all the other principles is basically states that, and then you go into contractual law set by Services Australia.
Yeah.
Good question, Marguerite.
Yep. And that's why these, what's called the ACSOs, the Aged Care Service Officers, are so good, because they got to that level of detail, as do our financial advocacy officers.
One more question from a gentleman down here.
Yeah, this is something I deal with a lot, and I'm still unsure of the answer. So I'm an aged care advisor. I mainly do all the financials and the DAPs and the RADs and everything that's needed for people to go into care. A big rush on getting in before November 1, obviously, because in my mind it's...
To get into residential care?
Correct.
Yep.
Because of it's better financially. What I'm still yet to know is if someone's in permanent care, grandfathered, they're not happy with the nursing home, they want to move their mum or dad closer to where they are. They find another nursing home before they do that, obviously. The transition is straight from one home to another. Are we going to have a transition, and that second nursing home is post November 1. Is there going to be a transitional period to allow that without that person losing the grandfather?
So my understanding is the grandfathering attaches to the person, not to their location, but we will double check that. And date of entry from the original date of entry. But in our Q&As, we'll make sure that that question is answered, because we'll put that back to the department to that. Yep. Yeah.
So, for instance, there's people like that start making the bed for but so that's where they both two of the that's is which they got to the heart is.
Yep.
They got which can be fit by and well as the third certification of that.
I've got one more really good residential care one that's come in. Sorry to cut you off. For somebody already in residential care who was forced by the provider to accept an additional service fee under the guise of membership on entry, does the legislation cover this area?
Go for it, Sophia.
All right.
Health and
This is
higher everyday living.
So this is one of our bugbears, additional services. So one of the things we strongly advocated for was that additional services, so entry into residential care shouldn't be conditional on accepting additional services, which means, you know, the glass of wine at dinner, the newspaper, Foxtel, whatever it is that they package into their additional services, because lots of people told us they don't use them, but they were forced to pay for them to go. So this is now decoupled. In the legislation, it is decoupled, and you have 28 days to make a decision about whether you accept those additional services or not, and it's now called a higher...
Everyday living agreement.
Yep.
Now, this person sounded like they'd already been signed up for one,
yep.
so they were locked in.
Yep.
The provider has 12 months to move people over from the current agreements to a higher everyday living agreement. So during that time, and I believe you can actually ask to be moved across to one as well.
That might be a good segue into rights.
Yeah. Or complaints.
Complaints, whistleblowers and rights.
So
Go for
I
it,
guess
Sophia.
there are a number of changes in the new Act around complaints and provisions around whistleblowing, etc. But I think our experience, and I think OPAN would share some of this, is that many people told us that they didn't feel that when they made a complaint that it was actually really investigated, taken on board, and often nothing changed from their complaint. And and there was no consequence to providers who did the wrong thing. So there was a culture of managing the stakeholder rather than actually listening to the people and doing something about it. So, and of course, we know that it's hard to make a complaint when you're actually receiving the service. Lots of people told us they felt that there was retribution and it was really difficult. So, look, the message is don't be afraid to make complaints because it's important. Feedback is important, and things only change when people receive feedback. So, and the Royal Commission really heard these issues and made comment on how aged care providers and how the system manages that feedback and complaints. So what's changed? So the Statement of Rights is a new thing, and I mentioned before the purple brochure from OPAN, fantastic resource. So you will be able to make a complaint based on your on that Statement of Rights, and I think Craig explained about what could happen, what are the consequences of doing that. So we have strengthened quality and safety standards that are measurable, they're detailed, and you can also take them to your provider. Say you've these are my rights, and what's happened to breach those rights. So, and they're very clear of what the provider needs to do. Craig, did you want to add something about that? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can make a complaint to the provider. That's often where we say the first place to go to. You can also ring Jim and his team at Advocacy Tasmania. 1800 700 600 gets you through to them. They've also got their own website, the Your Say website, and their local telephone number as well. So they can provide you that advice of support so that you can do it yourself, or they can work with you. You can also call the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission, and Advocacy Tasmania can help you in that process as well to actually lodge that formal complaint. Yeah. The other thing I'm really excited about is the time frames and the commission on the time frames. Now, before, kind of, as you were saying, it went into a bit of a black hole and might come out 6-9 months later and here's your letter, nothing to see here, or we've investigated and the provider said they'll do better next time. There's going to be time frames for them to contact you. They have to triage your complaint within 3 days. They have to get back to you within, I think it's 10 days. They have to try and resolve the complaint, I think it's within 90 days, so within 3 months. And if it's going to go longer, they have to come back to you and tell you why it's going to be longer and come back to you every couple of weeks. Yeah. That's a really positive move to keep you engaged as part of the process, rather than it just being between the provider and the commission.
So the other thing I guess we did mention earlier, but I'll reiterate, is that there is an independent complaints commissioner within the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission at the moment. We have advocated for it for that position to be separate from the commission, but I don't think we haven't won that argument yet. So
yeah, and that's so that they can their argument is refer for regulatory action and sharing the intelligence, which might mean that because they're getting all these complaints, there's something they need to do about the quality standards, or they might need to put in some civil penalties and fine the provider as well.
Yeah, And the other thing that will change is the whistleblower provisions in the Act. So that they're new, so it protects not just staff within the provider making whistleblowing on terrible things that are going on, or not so good things going on, but also older people, families, etc., who are raising these complaints will have whistleblower protections that are legally enforceable.
And what that means is they can't actually take reprisal against you. It is against the law. They will be fined. They can take action in the courts if people if you use the whistleblower protection.
One of the questions we've been getting at all our forums, and again today, is that there is such an imbalance in power, though, between the person in care and the provider. How are we going to ensure that they feel that they can raise these issues? All family members can raise these issues.
Yeah, I think now the independent aged care advocates have the right of entry. That's in the primary legislation. So they go in and provide education. You can speak to them and you can actually make a whistleblower declaration to the independent advocates. So that's one avenue. We need to see how this plays out, though, with this. And if the penalties aren't enough of a deterrent, we will be pushing harder for stronger regulation so that people feel that they can raise their issues. This should be a good thing for providers. It shows how they can improve their services, and there should be a focus on continuous quality improvement rather than be there. There's also an obligation around open disclosure. Open disclosure is if someone says, I've done something wrong, they actually tell you about it and apologise and say what they're going to do. Do you want to talk about the restorative pathways, Sophia? That's the other one about what happens with a complaint.
There some of the changes and some things that the Commission, as part of the toolkit that the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission will have, will be ordering things like mediation, fines, restorative, what's a simple way of putting that, Craig? I think you will be, you may be compensated for the harm that's
compensation for really serious harm, enforceable undertakings, so actually making it a legal commitment that they need to make change.
Yeah, and I think the fact that we've in the past have been quite critical that the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission had only one tool to be able to. Now they have a suite of tools where they can, from all the way from education and support through to the big stick.
The big stick fines,
and fines.
Gee, some of these questions are good. Will there be any onus on providers to actively seek feedback from participants, residents, rather than relying on complaints?
Oh, this is your one.
Absolutely. So some of the changes and that the Royal Commission did recommend, because they did recognise that providers weren't listening, is we now have a mandate for consumer advisory bodies. So providers must have some structures to be able to listen to the people who receive their services to families. So I know that's something we're doing some work in that space with providers.
There's also resident and experience reports, and part of the quality indicators is speaking to the residents about their experience, and it feeds into the star rating system as well.
Great. Well, that almost brings us to the last piece of the puzzle, supported decision making.
All right, let's bring it on home. Topic 5, supported decision making. You've got the right to still make decisions about your life. You always have, and you should continue to do that. Even if you have, say, under Tasmanian law, you've appointed someone as your guardian or your power of attorney. Under Tasmanian law, and I'm kind of looking to Jim here to make sure I'm staying on message here and I'm correct, but they need to follow your wishes and preferences. This isn't about what they think is in your best interest. This is about your preference and your wishes and following those. But the reason why under the Act that those guardians and powers of attorney that you put in place, they are respected under the Aged Care Act, is because we pushed really hard that if you've gone through all that effort to choose who you want and to tell them how you want to live your life, that person should still remain as part of that support. So you can, you've got the right to access information in the way you want it. You've got the right to actually have that information explained to you, and to be given the support so that you understand that. And that's really important, even if those decisions that you want to make involve some level of risk. That has to be respected by the provider, and it also needs to be respected by your family members as well. So when someone's appointed a power of attorney or one of these other supporters, they're in a really privileged position, and they need to respect your rights to still continue to make your decisions. So those are your own, and just on our next slide, yep, that dignity of risk. You've made decisions your whole life. Even if you're living with dementia, you can still make those decisions. What we do say to people is, particularly if you're living with dementia, is to document how you want your life to be lived. So if you get to the point where you can't articulate that, there's records of how you want those things. What's called a social directive, or an advanced care directive is the other way that people do that as well. Under the new system, we are doing a thing called a registered supporter, or the government is, and that is a person that's registered with My Aged Care that can receive information about your care. You can choose to appoint someone. You don't have to. You don't actually have to have a power of attorney or a guardian. We know a lot of aged care providers saying you can't come in unless you have one. That's not the case. You can appoint multiple people, and you can choose to appoint no one as well. So this is a much stronger system. We've had this in disability for a while. It links to the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of People with Disability, to have the assumption that they can still be recognised under the law and to make their own decisions. So this is part of, I suppose, the way that we enact that international convention on people's rights within aged care. And if the person, that registered supporter, does the wrong thing, so they take your money or don't follow your directions, they can be removed. You can ask for them to be removed, or what's called the system governor, the person in the department. If they think they're abusing you, they can remove them, and they can also fine them. So that's much stronger. And what we're trying to do is get a principle through the system right across for workers, for your family members, that there's a respect for your ability, that you have agency, you have empowerment, you are able to make your decisions still, and your wishes and preferences need to be followed. I think it's a really strong thing that we haven't seen in the Aged Care Act before. Questions on supported decision making?
We're almost done. I feel like we want to round it out, unless anyone's got any specific questions on supported decision making.
One thing, sorry, Peter, that I forgot to add which is really important, is that one of the good things we have with the new Act is that we've got a review date. So there is a 3-year review date that where the operation of the Act will be reviewed, and we'll have an opportunity to make comment and say, how is it actually working?
Yeah, so it was a big push to make sure it's not a set and forget. There'll be changes that goes through. There's also an independent Inspector General of Aged Care, who is, by law, has to do reports on the system every year about how it's going, can do their own reviews and investigations, but also needs to look at how well is the government, and is this transformation actually achieving what the Royal Commission was looking for.
And I think she's already published her first report.
First report.
Yeah.
And it says we're not there yet.
Yes. So
we're going to roll it to a conclusion in just a few minutes. We did want you to mark us up, or at least mark us for this session, which is really that question we asked you at the beginning. If you feel like using your phone, please do so, but I'll also do a show of hands. At the beginning, we asked people how much they thought they knew about the changes, and we had the 1s and 2s who didn't know much, and the 4 and 5s who thought they could be up here. How many are now 1s and 2s who still don't know much? That's fantastic. Oh, we got one.
One, yep.
We'll talk to you one-on-one later. How many are 4 and 5s who now think that they know a little bit more at least about it? That's terrific. And that's showing up here as well, although we've only had a few. Oh, we've got quorum here. And this is the really interesting thing, because quite rightly people said, how do I know if I'm supportive of the changes or not? Overall, now, after what you've heard today, in terms of that scale of 5, 1 to 2, don't really like it, 4 to 5, think it might be a step in the right direction. Who's a 1 or 2? Who's a 4 or 5? So we've got some people that are at least prepared to give it a crack. And I think one of the important things is to work with your advocacy bodies, COTA and OPAN, to make sure that your voices are heard. But finally today, again, with the phone, or else if anyone wants to say anything, just some reflections on today's discussion. Let's start with Craig and Sophia. And if you want to put any words in there, we can see them.
Put your reflections in there, put that question and push the button to submit your question. Look, there is a new power that's coming in that means if things aren't working, the minister can make changes as they go along. So that's why we want to keep hearing from you if it's not working, that things can be changed along the way if there's a systemic issue, because this is big change. But what we wanted to do today is give you some of this information, because knowledge is power. And if you've got the knowledge about how the system works, you can actually put your hand up and then also say, this is not working for me, or I need more services. Don't be afraid to ask for the services. Don't be afraid to apply to have those fees waived if it's too hard for you, and get more information.
Yeah. And reach out to your local services here in Tasmania. So, and I think we're going to have Bridget coming to close off, but to your advocates here in Tasmania, or to our colleagues here.
Yeah, they do some really great work here at Advocacy Tas and COTA. So thank you, and thank you for all coming along today. Over to you, Bridget.
But please, fill out the rest of it as we go.
Thank you so much, Sophia and Craig and Peter. I don't know about anyone else, my mind's boggling, and I actually live and breathe this quite often, most days. So absolutely, it's Friday. You'll probably all want to go home now and have a big sleep after all of that information. But thank you for walking and talking us through it. It's really important, as they said, that we keep hearing from you about your experiences or what you're hearing from other people that are experiencing the aged care space, because it's really, really vital to us that we can feed that up to government. And I guess from COTA Tasmania's perspective, and for those of you that haven't heard about us, we're the peak body in Tasmania. There's a COTA in every state and territory. We don't do the individual advocacy like OPAN and Advocacy Tasmania. We run programs and awareness raising activities and run a navigation service to support people navigate the aged care. But we also do a lot at that policy and reform level. So my takeaway from today is that when I go and see our brand new Minister for Ageing on Monday, which I'm not sure if you're aware, we are the last state and territory to have a minister appointed to that portfolio, and we're meeting with her on Monday, is we're very clearly and very strongly wanting our own Tasmanian government to understand this stuff. Because whilst the federal government might fund the packages and fund the money, our Tasmanian government also has an obligation for all its citizens to make sure they get what they need to age well. So my takeaway is that I'll be taking some of this information to that meeting on Monday. Thanks for being with us, either online or in person. There's a lot of information that people can take away printed, either from the department or for us and from Advocacy Tas, so I really encourage you to do that. And I guess lastly, I'd just sort of say that it's really important for us and for you that the systems that are designed are understandable, that you can navigate them without too much of a bother, which at the moment is not the case, and that you get really timely access. So like, I'm not sure if it was Sophia or Craig said, we strongly believe that from time of assessment to getting services shouldn't be more than a month, shouldn't be more than 30 days. We're leaving people at risk if we don't offer that. So that's what we'll be looking for alongside others. And please take the information. COTA and I'm sure Advocacy Tas will be around for a bit longer if you wanted to ask any more individual questions. Have a great weekend. Really do be careful, those of you in the room. There was a lot of thunder and rain as we were doing those sessions. And I just wanted to ask one really quick question because I'm curious. And if you're online, maybe put it in the chat. But where did you find out about today's forum? We've been promoting it in our e-news, or you might have heard about it in an e-news from OPAN. Did you hear about it from a newsletter? Yep. Did you see it on social media? Yep. Did you hear about it from a friend? Yep. Or maybe a service provider that you're connected to? No. And what I'm really happy about is that this session was promoted and advertised for community, and that's who came. So thank you very much, and all the very best, and keep in touch with us. Thank you.
Good.